Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, according to where you are. My name is Eduardo Melo. I'm the Chronicle Editor-in-Chief, the International Association of Youth Judges and Magistrates Journal on Justice and Children's Rights. I'm very pleased to have all of you. I'm sorry, just a minute. Just 1 minute, sorry. I'm very pleased and happy to have all of you with us today. We are beginning a new series of webinars in our association, this time on youth justice associative movement. The reason why we decided to have this series is because in 4 years' time, we'll have our association centennial. We're going to celebrate during these 4 years, and we considered that it was the right time to begin this discussion because 100 years ago, many countries have had their first youth justice court created. This year, we are also celebrating 100 years of the Geneva Declaration. So we are trying to discuss the impact of youth justice associative movements and the improvement of the justice systems to grant children's rights and how we could improve as well these movements all around the world, discussing how the international association and national associations can work together to have a better panorama for children's and adolescents all over the world. So for this movement, we decided to begin with our former presidents, 3 of our former presidents. We'll have another webinar in 2 months' time, inviting the last ones. And then our idea is to have webinars focusing on the national associations, inviting each national association that belongs to our association or that could belong to our association to tell their history, to share their experience, and create a network of reflection on how this youth justice associative movements and children's rights are interconnected. So for today, we are very pleased to have the participation of 3 very important former presidents of our association. I'll introduce the 3 of them right away, and then we begin our discussions. First of all, we have Jean Zermatten, who was the president of the youth court in Valais from 1980 to 2005. He is the founding director of the International Institute on Children's Rights in Sion, Switzerland, and he was responsible for this course at the University of Fribourg. I have had the opportunity and the honor to study with him, and he was my mentor. It was a very rich experience to have all his orientation, and he is very well known all around the world for his interventions, his publications, and which led him to become not only a member of the United Nations Committee on Children's Rights, but also the presence of this committee. And it's also an honor for all of us youth judges to also have had him as the president of our international association. We will also have with us today Justice Renate Winter, who was a judge in Vienna since 1981 in the Viennese Youth Court. She was then an international judge working and president of the Special Court of Sierra Leone and international judge at the Supreme Court in Kosovo. She was also president of our international association. It was through the hands of Renate that I became more engaged in our association. So I'm very pleased for this opportunity to Renate. And since then, she's working with many international organizations, the Council of Europe, UN bodies, and provides advice to governments concerning juvenile justice and child protection. And finally, we have the participation of Joseph Moyersoen, who is graduated in law at the State University of Milan, specialized in human and children's rights. He served as honorary prosecutor at the Ordinary Court of Milan, and then as honorary judge at the Juvenile Court in Milan, and today in Genoa. He collaborated with many many international movements, Terre des Hommes, for instance, Istituto degli Innocenti in Italy, the Secretariat of the European Network of National Observatories on Childhood, and with many NGOs and also other international organizations. And he was president of our international association. I have had the honor to be his Secretary General, and it was a very rich experience to work with Joseph. So today the idea is to have a dialogue between these three very experienced professionals about our topic. So I'll make some questions just to begin our discussions, and then I'll give the floor to each of them. So I think it's important to understand these associative movements, beginning by your individual experience. So I would like to ask you, as a judge or as a magistrate, what was the importance of the youth judges associative movements in your country, and especially what, in your opinion, were the major contributions of these movements regarding children's rights in your country? How this association of judges in your specific countries had an impact on children's rights in Switzerland, in Austria, and in Italy. So, Jean Zermatten, please, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are sitting. It's an honor for me to be part of this webinar and to answer to your question about how important the association has been in my country, in Switzerland. I have to say that in Switzerland, the association has always been well recognized, mainly because of strong personality who represented the association. I am thinking here to an old chairperson of the association, Judge Maurice Veillard. It's history, Maurice Veillard. He chaired the association, and I want also to mention his wife, Enrika Veillard-Cybulska, who was a Polish judge, but she ran the association for a long time, and she wrote many articles for the Chronicle, and it is amusing to note that the couple Veillard-Cybulski, the romance of this couple began in an international congress. But as strong personality, we have also Judge André Dunant, was also president of the association, and not to mention our friend Michel Lachat, who was a long time treasurer of the association. All this personality have indeed generated a big interest in an international association. Without them, it is doubtful whether the association would have such an appeal. Because it's true that sitting judges generally have little time and are under pressure from the number and seriousness of the cases they have to deal with. So taking time and interest in an international professional association was not, and I think is not their priority. I believe it's still the case, and in order to recruit members, it's necessary to make clear the added value of belonging to an international network that reflects on the essential issue facing magistrates. And I want also to underline the scientific and human benefit that members can receive. So I think it's very important. It was important for me, it was, and it is important for member of the Swiss National Association to be part of the big international association. I will come back for the contribution to children's rights in a second time, if you permit, so we can hear the Austrian importance.
Yes, please, Renate. We are making this first round, so you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, because I'm very sorry to be so late, but my computer didn't want me. Then the image didn't work, then the sound didn't work, then it stopped once again, and now finally it works. I'm happy. Thank you very much for inviting me also. I am also one of the oldies, quite old already. And I came to the association especially because of two persons. One was Jean Zermatten, and the other one was Horst Schüler-Springorum, one of our old honorary presidents and president. I have been working internationally since quite some time already, and therefore for me it was important that that our association, our Austrian association, would be a part and member of the international one, because of my work, I knew how important it was to be internationally connected. Concerning the juvenile justice, Austria was one of the first countries in Europe and worldwide to have a fully fledged juvenile justice system, even with all the child illnesses, so to say, because we were the first ones. And it was because of the juvenile judges who were adamant in having the rights of children accepted by the justice system, that finally we got special training, we got specialists at courts, specialists at the prosecution. We had a problem with specialists in the police. We got a lot of very well-trained social workers, and therefore we could really fulfill almost everything that was in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, that was, of course, also ratified by Austria. The International Association helped to convince judges that to be a juvenile judge is not to be a minor judge, but a real, fully fledged judge. That was not so when I became judge, which is long time ago. And I was asked, as it is the issue in our country, where would you like to start working? I said I would like to go to the juvenile court. And they said to me, but your exam was not so bad. Why do you go there? There you can never make a career, whatever. It proved absolutely wrong. And as I said again, as I have to say again, the International Association is was helping me to convince colleagues how important it was to be a juvenile judge. With the old saying that what you do not invest in children, you have to pay 3 times for adults. That was my part. Thank you.
Thank you, Renate. What about you, Joseph?
Yes, thank you very much, Eduardo, for having organized this webinar. It's also for me an honor to participate, in particular with Jean Zermatten and Renate Winter. I knew from them the existence of the International Association. Then also, I think it's important to remind the importance to making know what is the International Association and what they do to the juvenile judges. I have just very short video. Okay. Well, can you see?
Yes.
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 Perfect. In my experience, as I wrote, associative movements have been fundamental, allowing the comparison and exchange of information regarding doctrine and jurisprudence in juvenile and family matters through 3 main tools. The first one is training events, exchanges, and also study trip. The Italian Association was born in 1951. The first juvenile court in Italy was created with the decree, royal decree in 1934, and is quite a lot history. And the most person that I would like to mention who gave an important input to the Italian Association was Alfredo Carlo Moro, and also Paolo Vercellone, who was also involved in the International Association. This is the reason that it's important to me to mention it. And concerning training, it's interesting that in Italy, we have 29 juvenile courts in total, and the Italian Association is organized at national level with a annual conference at least, and at zonal, if I can say that, level, north, center, and south, they organize at zonal level at least 1 training event each year, and also with sections in each in each juvenile court. And these sections also organize events like training, like seminars, and so on. There are some of them very, very active. For example, I just mentioned 3 weeks ago, we got the open day with 150 children who came in the youth court of Genoa, and we explain in group of 20 how it is work in a different group, focus on different issue, in particular criminal, civil, adoption, and unaccompanied foreign children matters. Concerning the online forum of members, I think also is very useful. We had in Italy, I think we have in Italy from, more than 10 years, 15 years. It's a forum in which we can exchange information on training, on events, on books published, on jurisprudence. And it's also very useful if we would like to share practices in Italy, we have some specific topics in which the practices are a little bit different from one tribunal to the other one. Then it's very important to share and to find the good way to implement children's rights in the application of the Italian legislation. And the third tool, I think, is the website. Also, the website of the associations are very important because we can publish everything we do, official documents, jurisprudence, events, and so on. Then these three tools are, from my side, very useful for helping to know and grow up the knowledge of the juvenile judges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. It is very interesting to have this different perspective from 3 countries in Europe. I would like to go to the second questions. The second question about the impacts of this associative movement on children's rights. Renate has already mentioned how there was an impact on the conception of the judge and the relation of this conception of the judge on children's rights. So I think it would be an interesting point from which we could begin this discussion. So I'll give Jean Zermatten once again the floor.
Yes, to answer the question of the impact or the major contribution to the children's rights movement, I have to mention first that our international association has been consulted during the drafting of the UN CRC in the phases from 1980 to 1988. But I have to say that the member judges of the association at the time I was a member, we have not really weighed up the future importance of this international treaty. It was only after the fact that many countries had ratified the text in the early 19th that judges realized that juvenile justice before the convention would no longer be the same as juvenile justice after the promulgation. I'm thinking here in particular of 3 articles of the convention, Article 37, Article 39, and about all Article 40 of the CRC. This article called into question the objective of the juvenile justice, the method of juvenile justice, the approach, and above all, the responses of the juvenile justice, and particularly the question of deprivation of liberty. I think that it was the biggest challenge the judges and indirectly the international association faced. I have to, it should be added that also the CRC has a major impact on the association through the creation of the International Institute for Children's Rights in 1995 in Sion. Thanks to people like Renate, and grateful to her to be part from the beginning, or my friend Michel Lachat, and I was also the founder of this institute. This institute was designed to disseminate information at the beginning on the CRC, but later on it was important to offer training in children's rights, and this has been very important for Switzerland to have this institute, but also for the association, because many members of the association could attend training courses. Over the years, more than 20 international seminars have been organized on topics related to juvenile justice, but not only on juvenile justice, as well on a wide range of general issues like education, health, migration, leisure, violence, protection, all in relation with the new spirit created by children's rights. And it was also important for Eduardo. we launched the interdisciplinary master degree in children's rights, in which many members of the association took part as teachers, but many members who attended the school as participants. And this master degree was the first of its kind in the world at this time, and the association was one of the founders of this institution. And I could summarize it in saying that the institute has been a sort of training center, and juvenile justice has been one of the favorite themes of this institute. So the impact was enormous thanks to the association.
Yes, I was informed about the course through the association. So the association was the channel to diffuse all this information. It was very important indeed. So Renate, please.
I can just, I cannot come up with an institute like the one of Jean. I have been there in all 22, it was in total 22 congresses. And I do not know how many of the international members of the association I found there, and how many new ones came to the association because of this institution. We do not have such an institution, as I said, in Austria. We have a long tradition on juvenile justice. As I said, maybe this is not, this is the reason why we do not have such an institution. But we have a coming together of our judges to discuss issues and issues that are international regularly. And the next impact that was important, I'm not going to repeat what Jean already has said, which of course was similar in all European countries, I hope, in Austria certainly. But the next input that we needed, where I hope that also the international association still can do something, is the Institute of Diversion. The institute to go away from punishment to do good, so to say, to do good what you have done wrong. So this new policy that also, of course, is based on the Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article 40 again, together with Article 12 of the Convention, the right of the child to be heard, has changed the Austrian policy and the way judges dealt with children enormously. It is the juvenile judges and it is the family court judges, because juvenile rights, children's rights are also very, very important to be safeguarded in civil law, not only in penal law and in administrative law now, especially with all the migrants and the problems with young migrants that all the European countries have. This diversion, as I said, program which was important for dealing with children personally, giving the children a voice, changed once again the situation of the juvenile justice and the civil justice methodology for the judges. And there again, we had the same situation. In order to say, okay, why do we not try this? Why do we not go there? What can we do here? The impact of the international experiences have been important. One country has tried this, another country has tried that. One country tried community service, another country tried mediation, and so on. So to take everything, the best practices from other countries was very, very important for us. And I hope, just to end, I hope that we can have another boost, especially internationally, with the diversion program, to really strengthen the diversion program in quite a lot of countries where it's not yet so strong. I cannot hear you.
I think this webinar is very important because you're thinking together what association can improve as well in its movement. We are working on the right to be heard with our researchers and parallel webinars to this one about the associative movements. So I'm very happy to hear you and also to have your inputs on what we could improve. So I would like to hear Joseph about this issue now.
Thank you, Eduardo. Yes, I totally agree. I think one of the most important role of the International Association, and also in particular for my experience, the national associations, is the advocacy activity. The advocacy activity is, for example, managed by official documents, but also to make clear the importance of the participation of juvenile judges, members of the Italian Association. This is the case that I would like to mention. In the institutional commissions, in the hearing in the parliament, when the discussion of a new law is under discussion. And for example, in the training organized by the Italian Superior School of Magistrates, la Scuola Superiore della Magistratura, because they can come with the experience and the attention focused on children's rights. And also, I can mention, because you spoke about the CRC committee, the Italian CRC group is a group of NGOs, 95 organization, association, and also with the Italian Association of Judges and Magistrates in Youth and Family Matters, coordinated by Save the Children, who have the topic, the main activity is to monitor the implementation of the CRC in Italy. They make a document every year, and when the discussion of the periodic report of Italian government is made by the CRC committee, they also can be invited to give more information or more detail what is happened in the practices. And I think also is very important. I would like to remind that the CRC was adopted by the General Assembly in 1989, but the Italian law, the criminal procedural code, was adopted before the CRC. And it was the Beijing rules, very important, to push this decree, the Decreto DPR, decree of the President of the Republic for 8 of 1988, to be in line with the CRC, even if the CRC was not yet adopted.
Thank you, Joseph. Very interesting, the history in Italy. Now I would like to go to our third round of questions. It was about your engagement in the International Association. You have already explained a little bit, but I would like to address one of the challenges that Jean has already pointed out about the added value of the International Association to the judge's work. We know that it's the international level is not very immediate in the work of the judges, so they need some translation of what is going on in different countries to adapt it to their local perspective, and we are overloaded by work and other tasks. So there is an added value, as Jean has already pointed out, but there is also this challenge of translation and to bring this international perspective to a local dialogue. So I would like to know what were the issues at stake to make you believe that the International Association could bring a new perspective to the work of a judge at national level, and to your work as well at that time when you were engaged in our association. Jean, please.
Yes, answering this question is to go back to history because I started as member of the association in 1974, so 50 years from now. So my first contact with the association was with Judge André Dunant. André Dunant was at this time, when I met him, he was a juvenile judge in Geneva, Switzerland, but he was also the treasurer of the association. And I was a young clerk at the juvenile court in Fribourg, Switzerland. And we start discussing, and he showed me how it could be interesting to have contact with other judges. I was flattered to be able to become a member, because at this time I was not a judge nor a magistrate, and it was not very clear if the association could receive other people than judges. I'm thinking in social work, police officer, or member of the the psychological part of the work. So I was flattered, and I was also very interested in the possibility to have contacts beyond my country borders. I was curious to know what my friend from France or from Italy or from Germany, how they dealt with juvenile justice. Then later, when I became president of the juvenile court of the Canton du Valais in 1980, I started a more active collaboration with the association, because André Dunant was elected as a chairperson, and he asked me to follow as a treasurer. As you know, Swiss members appreciate as a treasurer. So I accepted this proposal, and from then on, I have the chance to attend international congresses. At this time, we have no website. We have only the Chronicle, but it was just the embryo of the Chronicle. But we have very interesting and very important international congresses. The first one I attended was in Amsterdam in '82. And then I attended many international congresses. Just for memory: Rio '86, Torino '90, Bremen '94, Buenos Aires '98, Melbourne 2002, Belfast 2006, Amamet 2010. The last one I attended was a big event in Geneva, International Congress in Geneva, organized together with Terre des Hommes, and I was also a contributor to this international Congress. And I think these congresses were very important and were an added value. But now I think international congresses are important, but we have other means. And Joseph underlines the importance of the website, I think, website and webinars. And I think that but we have not to forget also the possibility to have access to very important scientific material. When I started, scientific material was very poor, and juvenile justice was not a very important subject for the
professors.
So for the professor in general, and we have some very important professor. Renate mentioned Professor Schiller-Springorum and other Professor Vercherone was also a big contributor. But I think that the possibility to have access to this scientific material was very important at this time. Now things has changed, and we have a new possibility, and Dr. Google is born, as you know. Okay. Thank you, Renate.
Thank you, Jean. Renate, please.
I can not say very much different than Jean has already mentioned. I have been in almost all those congresses from Bremen on with him together, and also at the last one. But I would like to focus a little bit on the challenges, as you have asked, Eduardo. The challenge number one, of course, as everywhere, is you have not enough personnel and you have too much work. That is everywhere, and this is in the justice system the same in Austria as well. We have maybe enough judges. Just a moment, please. Oh, we have enough judges. Can I please ask? There's an emergency in my house. Can you please ask Joseph to start, and I come back? Would that be possible?
Okay. Yes, of course.
Please, I'm sorry. Just a moment, please.
Okay.
I hope the internet will stay.
Yes, it will. Joseph.
Yes, thank you, Eduardo. Yes, my experience in the field of juvenile justice come also from afar. I starting with the development cooperation after the graduating in law. And first through the management and then the evaluation of development cooperation programs. I work in many countries of the different continents. And it's very interesting that where I worked for, first of all, NGOs and then the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also European Union to evaluate the program on juvenile justice. Very interesting how the national legislations like the Italian one, in my case, could be very useful for those countries who had to build a specific juvenile justice system. For example, I can mention the programs in Mozambique and in Angola, but also in Afghanistan. And for this reason, I think in the future can be very useful to have a strict contact with the European Union because they finance periodically program, development cooperation program, also in juvenile justice, and can be very useful if the international association take the strict link with the European Union, in particular the European Commission, to give their knowledge, availability for support this kind of juvenile justice development cooperation program. Therefore, I have also been interested in international law, juvenile law, and how the latter was implemented in various countries, finding the enormous potential of comparing national systems. This is enormous potential to allow their improvement. And for this reason, I think the International Association can be very useful also. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. I am back.
Great.
Everything okay now?
Good.
For the next 10 minutes at least, I hope. Okay, now I wanted to speak about the difficulties. The very first difficulty, as I said, is the overloading. And each and every paper that you do not have to read is an advantage. That is one of the things. The second thing is that I am coming from a country that is not, whose language is not an international language, German, which means there is nothing of the international instruments, almost nothing of the work of another country, of the work of a scientist or so that is written in German. So we are, a lot of us are depending on translations. Now, at the time when we started and when I started 100 years ago, the judges have not been fluent in any other language than in German and Latin, because these were the two languages that were necessary for a judge. Slow by slow, this changed, and now English at least is not an issue anymore. Almost every judge can speak English. So that is a smaller problem. But then to go and to read really into another jurisprudence is not so easy. I had to do it once because I had to solve a problem at the International Court of Sierra Leone, where we had children as soldiers, and there was no legislation concerning child soldiers. And one of the accused persons said to me, it's maybe unethical to use children, but it's not forbidden by law, so you have to set me free. And at that time, I had to ask the International Association to help me and to send their jurisprudence, their laws. And I had 128 answers. 128 different jurisdictions that I had to go through to find out that indeed internationally there was already forbidden to use child soldiers. That was a huge assistance for me, a really huge assistance. And this assistance, I think, is important now even more, because with all the problems that we have, especially concerning children, sexual assault on children, a huge issue, cybercrime concerning children, a huge issue, all these issues cannot be solved in one country alone. And therefore, an international association that brings the different difficulties, but also the different starts of solutions together is very, very, very helpful. And once again, it helped me and it helped others as well. I remember when you, Eduardo, sent a questionnaire. What about the rooms in your country? Remember? That helped, that gave another boost. Because when I asked my colleague judges to please send me photos for you, they said, oh, photos, oh, I have to think about, and so on. And then a new development started once again. And that was really important. And hope will continue, because with the HABEP now, at least you do not have to run from one country to another. And that is already a big issue, because money is also an issue that is always a problem. Nobody pays you if you have to run to another country for a congress, if you are not invited, no? And an association cannot invite so much, because there's also no money, no? So in this regard, Zoom meetings and seminars on web are really, really important. That is all I can say.
Thank you, Renate. I think it's very important, your contribution, because language is still a problem in many countries. We see that in the countries Joseph were mentioning, in Africa, in Asia, even in Brazil, not everybody can speak English. And one thing is to translate and to have a passive contact with documents. The other thing is to dialogue. And
Yes.
what we are talking about, all of you, is
dialogue.
about judicial dialogue, how we
Yes.
can put people together and make they understand all the issues they're facing, and how the experience in another country can contribute to their own experience. So this is what we are trying to do with our researches and the webinars, of course, because then we have the automatic translation. But it is still a challenge. So I would like to go to we are talking about this associative movement, and I think it's very important to register our history, and register our history through the importance of you as very emblematic specialists in the area. So I would like to invite you to remember, all of us, the importance of the International Association, considering your mandates, specific mandates as president. What were the challenges at that time? What were the contributions you think you could you have made as a former president? What we're not able to do at that time, and maybe that we could do today. So Jean, please.
Yes, maybe I am repeating myself, but during my term as chairperson, I was chairperson from 94 to 98. The biggest challenge for me and for the association was to take into deep consideration the new Convention on the Right of the Child. As said before, at the beginning, the judges were not convinced that this was important. They were more or less, some of them, disturbed by this convention, because this convention was changing the face of our work, was changing the status of the child from an object of our decision to a subject of rights, and all to integrate. At this time, almost all the countries represented in the association have to do something with this convention. And it was very important, and it was very challenging, because we have not only to change our amendment, but we have to help our government to make the legislative changement and to adopt this new approach of the child, this new child's right approach, what we call this new approach, based on the four main principles of the convention: the right not to be discriminated against, the right to be heard, and it is very important that juvenile justice in all proceedings, the right to have his or her best interest taken into consideration. It is not
primary.
I have not to explain, but it was very important, and the right to personal development. And this was, for me, this was the biggest challenges. And so we, at this time, organized a lot of not only international congress, because international congress are every 4 years, but international, first national and then international at more continental level organized. I remember a lot of work done with the French Association. It was important. The French Association was very interested, but was also very questioning about children's rights, because French law was not absolutely in line with the convention. So this was the biggest challenge for the association, for the chairperson, and for all the persons who were in charge of the link between national and international association. I think this is also a sort of a big challenge, or to have. I have to remember that at this time we have quasi no internet. Internet was starting. We have no phone. In order to, if I wanted at this time to have a call with a Russian member, I have to advertise two days before, then to start a long proceeding with the person, and then you have the problem of the language. Who can in this country answer to my question in English? Just an example. The same with Japan and so on. So it was very difficult to have this link between the national and level and the international association. And this combination was quite difficult. Now things have changed, but I think it's always a problem. Another challenge was to forge relation with other continents. We were strong in Europe, we were strong in some part of in Canada, in the States, beginning, but we have quasi no relation with Africa and poor relation with Asia. So we start to develop relation and to try to include more and to develop also national association. One example was a big effort made in North Africa, and we developed a strong relation with Tunisia at this time. And Tunisia had, after some congresses, a strong national association, and so we can organize later in 2010 a big international congress in Hammamet, for example. But I think this was the biggest challenge, this integration of the new approach of the of children's rights and the development of the association, not only in Europe, but we were also quite strong in South America. South America was a good continent for the association, but with other regions of the world, and were more or less successful. Thank you.
Jean. Renate.
When I took over, it was already settled. The system of international association in Europe was really settled already, but it was not so in worldwide. as Jean said, there were quite a lot of challenges. There was even a challenge in our strongest international holdout in Latin America. There were a kind of dispute between two Latin American countries, which took a long time to settle and I tried my best to settle it when I was the president of the association. But there was an international movement that started at that time, and it became stronger and stronger. And that was that, for instance, colleagues in Africa, also colleagues in Asia, but especially in Africa, said, no, this association is a European association. They always know better. They always do not hear us. We do not want to be part of an European association. And it took quite a lot of time to make it clear that an international association is international and not European only. It helped me when I was president of the Committee of the Rights of the Child, because then I could very often assist members of the delegation who were judges, very rarely, but some were there. And I could also try to, in my recommendations, to strengthen the colleagues, juvenile judges, in order to apply the international standards, because they had quite a lot of problems already. I remember when delegations said, yes, children should be seen but not be heard. I remember that other delegations said that is the international custom maybe, but we have other national customs and therefore we cannot accept this or that. There were countries where religious people came and said this is against our faith, or quite a lot of issues to deal with. And there the combination of being a member of the association and being president of the committee, and there was 8 years member of that committee, helped a lot. To try to convince. But I do think this job is something that is not yet done. And we are going to have to do quite a lot, especially in Africa now, working together with the associations of the African judges, because the African Charter is very similar, not the same, but very similar to the International Charter. And therefore, to show them that we accept the African Charter, like you should accept that the International Charter, and both of them coming together in the association might be a way forward.
Thank you, Renate. Joseph?
Yes. I would like to remind that for this reason, Renate had a great idea to organize the AIMJF Congress in 2010 in Tunis, in Africa. And this was a very good idea for try to involve more the African countries in the activities of the International Association. I remember very well a very great Congress. Okay, we already spoke about the difficulties of the languages, the time, because as Renate said, the resources are very limited in comparison on the amount of the activity of the juvenile judges. And also the time to reflect, to share, exchange, compare is not so easy to find it. But it's very important to try to take the time for this. I remember very well the importance of the International Association to support the support action provided by the International Association for Italy. For example, in 2016, we had a reform, the project of law 2284, called a delegation to the government containing provisions for the efficiency of the civil process relating to the reform of the juvenile justice in Italy and the abolition of the juvenile courts. Fortunately, the position of the international associations taken precisely to avoid the reform and some of its strong critical issues could stop this reform. And this is just an example on the interaction between national and international legislations. I also would like to mention the guidelines for children in contact with the justice system, because you already understand the different continents at regional or local level have so many differences between the others. And we didn't have before guidelines that could be implemented all over the world, because in the past we had the regional guidelines in Europe, in Africa, and South America. And in my mandate with Eduardo, we tried to organize a committee to study the possibility to have guidelines for children in contact with the justice system. And this work was excellently concluded in 2018 during the mandate of who succeeded me, Eric Kader. And you can discharge the document from the Italian International Association website, and can be very useful to see how we have some common points all over the world on juvenile justice to be implemented and focus on the international standards and principles. And at the end, I would like to say just a word on the two studies made by Eduardo for the International Association, that also you can discharge from the International Association website, on participation of children in the justice system in civil, the first one, and criminal matters, the second one. Very interesting to see the differences and common points that we have all over the world. At the end, let me say something about the regional International Association sections. Because, as Renate said, Europe, we have some common points and a lot of difference in comparing the other countries in the other continents. For this reason, we reflect on the possibility to have a European section. Also because if we look at the juvenile justice in Europe, we reflected on the most frequent recommendations on the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child to the European Union states. And we find three main common points to ensure that the deprivation of liberty of children is truly a measure of last resort. The need for specialized training for juvenile justice professionals, and also another time we underline the need to allocate adequate human and financial resources, both human and financial. And as that, with this, we reflect on the creation on the European section in 2010 in Bologna. The idea came from French and Italian colleagues to have the possibility to take attention to the series of rapid reforms happening in Europe, to face with the problems of a transnational nature. I can mention only unaccompanied foreign children among the others. And at the beginning was 10 countries. Now I think there are more than 15. This is a very useful way to meet other colleagues to go in deep in the problems that we have in our continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. It's important to mention that every year we are organizing a study tour during these European section meetings, and all members from all over the world are invited to participate. And once a year, we are trying to organize a study tour in another continent in order to achieve this, overcome this challenge that Renate has already mentioned to, and also Jean, that we must be seen as an international association, not only European. And we are glad to share that we have had 65 countries participating in our last research from all over the world, and many from Africa and Asia. But we still have this challenge to be overcome and a more deeper presence in these countries. But coming to an end to our webinar, I see that maybe one of the challenges in these other continents is that, and I would like to listen about that from you. What's your opinion? We see many national associations in Europe and in Latin America, but not many in other continents. And that's why I would like to ask you about what are your impressions about the mutual interaction between the international and national associations, and how, if the International Association could help those countries to have their own national association, if this would be an important step in their countries to improve their situation and to also to connect them in a better way with at the international level. And so what was your experience at the association? What are your perspectives? And also to ask you our last questions about the future of the youth judges associative movement in the world. So this could be our last round question to finish our webinar. Please, Jean.
Yes, thank you. It is quite difficult to answer clearly and definitely to your question, because it was and it is, as I understand, a big challenge, or to stimulate a group of judges or magistrates to create an association and to affiliate to the international association. So I think that we have to be attractive. I come back to this notion of added value. What is the added value of the international association for a single judge? I think that the association has achieved, in concrete terms, three very important things: effective and ongoing international congresses. This is the first pillar, if I can say. Secondly, publication of the Chronicle. I think it's very important because it is the link between the members, and it's not necessary to attend a Congress, but you can be linked with the movement through this Chronicle. And this Chronicle, I know that the Chronicle, maybe it's quite an old idea from the beginning, but it's clearly something very, very important. And Joseph just mentioned the necessity of training of professionals. I think the question of training is essential. And I plead from the beginning, from the outset of my membership in the International Association, to promote the training, or at the national or at the international level. For judges working daily, I think training at national level, it's important, but in many countries there is no training for judges, no specific training for judges. In Switzerland, we have no specific training for juvenile judges. We have to invent. If we want to be trained, we are trained in juridical matter, in penal matter, in criminal law, in all, but we have in Switzerland to, for example, to established training courses and so on at the national and at the international level. I think it's also important. So it's a reason why we started with this international training courses, not only in juvenile justice, but in children's rights, because children's rights are the minimum, I think, basis, the minimal basis for big training course. Now we have this invention of webinar. It is one of the collateral effects of COVID, but it's very interesting to have this possibility to train at the international level and to train judges. Not as we have also the possibility of MOOC, of this massive open training courses, and we have to use all these possibilities for the training. And the future of the international association depend of this added value, but depend also from the women and from the men. As I always said, that we who are the members and the leader of the association, and I think we have also to recruit the good person just to lead this very important association in the spirit of inclusion, because I think that we have not to be only an association of judges, but we have to include all the people who intervene in the juvenile justice system process. Not only the judges, but the lawyer, the police officer, the social worker, the psychologist, and we have to work in interdisciplinary matters. I think this is very important. Inclusion. Thank you.
I cannot hear.
Thank
Eduardo?
you, Jean. You have the floor, Renate, please.
This is now the only one point where I differ with Jean, inclusion. Because I have been, as I said, I have been working in some 40 countries worldwide. And there are quite a lot of countries where judges do not speak with other professions. Quite a lot. Jean is absolutely correct when he says we have to have inclusion. The point is that we have to be very careful and rather slow in implementing that issue. Because, as I said, also in Europe, you have countries where a judge would not speak with a police person. A judge would not open up for a discussion when there is a prosecutor next. A judge would not discuss anything with a social worker. Very few countries, Switzerland, for instance, Austria, for instance, Italy, as far as I know as well, are countries where this is possible. But we are a tiny minority, as far as I know. That is one problem that I see, and that has to be overcome slow by slow, by inviting to our webinars leading members of the other professions. Second issue, I have been living almost 11 years, if not a little more, in Africa. You have very poor nations in Africa. You have very corrupt nations in Africa. Most of the time it goes together, poor and corrupt. And if you invite those judges from those countries, they would like to come, but they cannot afford it. And we cannot afford to invite them. I do not know many African colleagues who would be able or willing to pay for a Congress on their own. Similar issues in some of the Latin American countries. Not in all, but in quite some. So I do think that we have to set, as already has been said, now you disappeared completely. I do not know why. Now there you are again. Yeah, I have a problem with the system, as I said from the beginning. That we do our training sessions and sometimes even our discussion sessions in a webinar by Zoom, because that at least enables the colleagues from countries where they cannot afford to come to participate. And then we have a problem, and I do not know how to deal with this problem, and this is the problem of traditions. In quite a lot of African countries, I have the notion that a child is not a human being. A child is a human being in construction, so to say, and therefore does not have rights. And this is entrenched in the customs and in the tradition of those countries. There is a right of a family, or there is a right of a clan, but there's not a right of a child. Not even now in the 21st century. And a similar problem you can find in a region where I also have been working very often, in Central Asia, where you have the churches telling you that there is no right of a child because it's not in the holy whatever books they have. And how to deal with this, I do not yet know. But what I know is that we have to deal with the colleagues of those countries, because very often the legal issues are there. The implementation of the legal issues by the judges is not possible because the judges are frightened by the reaction of the population. That is something I think that we have to work on. That would be my request of the association, to invite to webinars, to invite to Zoom all the colleagues. Every one of us has a colleague somewhere and could invite this person, please take time, come. It will be in English or in French or in Spanish. That would be my last words, please.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yes, thank you, Eduardo. I don't mention the free trends in Italy. You can read it, but of course, maybe they are not only a problem for us, but other countries. I think, as Jean said, one of the most important things that the International Association can do is to support the creation of national associations where they not exist already. I think this can be a very useful activity because if you have some judges who are interested to the International Association, but they have not in their country a national association, this can be a weak point because, okay, they still can I say, interested and they follow the activities, but just in the period in which they do the activity of juvenile judge. And then if they go away, nobody take their place. For this reason, the importance to create national association where they not exist is fundamental. And also to implement the two tools that I mentioned at the beginning, the website and the online forum. As I said, in Italy, we use a lot the online forum. I can understand at international level, it's more difficult but we have to try to push to use it more, to exchange the information, to reflect on good practices, to share the survey, the research that already you've done, Eduardo, or the new one, they will come in the future. And also the third point, training. I think a model of training could be useful, a model of training that can need to be adapted at local level. But about what said Jean and Renate, with the interdisciplinary approach, absolutely. Because at the moment in some countries, as said Renate, the spirit of inclusion is not exist yet. But if we try to have more interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approach in the training, this can be useful also to go in the way of the spirit of inclusion.
Thank you, Joseph. Yes, we are very pleased to tell you that our website is in English, but it allows automatic translation to more than 10 languages. So it's much more accessible. And also our webinars, unfortunately, we don't have yet the technological tools to have immediate translation, but tomorrow we'll have subtitles in any language. So it will be very accessible to everyone. So these are very important challenges to discuss inclusion, but also the specificity of our association. And we are in a moment when the committee will discuss access to justice. So I think the association is a very important space for us judges to discuss how we could improve access to justice to children. So I agree. I'm sorry. I agree with both Renate and John that we need to have interdisciplinary discussion, but without losing our specificity as judges and magistrates, and to be a voice of these professionals to the international level. So we have reached our time. We wanted to have this 1 hour and a half for discussion. I would like to thank all of you very much for your time, for all your insights, for your contributions to our association in the past and in the present, and also in the future, because you're very important, as Renate said, in this networking strategies of bringing people together and participating in our researches and our activities. So I'll give you the floor for your last words, and giving my acknowledgements and thanks for your participation, and expecting you in our next webinar in April on our last research on the right of the child to be heard in juvenile justice, and in May we'll have another webinar on the associative movement of youth judges in the world, with the last presidents who are not only European, they're European and Americans, North and South Americans. So this diversity is also, will also be represented in the last presidents. So John, your last words, please.
Oh, thank you. I want just to give you my appreciation for this kind of webinar. It's, I think, very important to use this new technology. And thank you to have given me the opportunity to give my warm regard to all members and not members of the association who attended this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you from my side as well. Thank you very much for, first of all, doing and creating this this group, because there will be a follow-up, as I know, with other colleagues that have been presidents or old members of the society. it is an important issue to have a bridge from the past to the beginning, because all the mistakes that we have made are not necessarily to be made by our followers. We can learn about it, and we have to deal with the challenges of this time. And this time's challenges are important. And I do think that the association will grow because the population of other continents than Europe is younger and younger and younger. And therefore, it will be important to have the association in especially those regions. That would be my wish and my hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph.
I also thank you, Eduardo, and thank the International Association for reflect on these topics. I really hope that the languages, times, and resources that I talk about it are not so a critical point, but maybe with the technology that we have now, it will be, they can be how can I say,
Assistance.
yes, assisted and from with the technology. I just said that I tried to use a chat GPT one time to see how this works, and with an interrogation a request, and it's very interesting that in 70% the answer was correct. This is the new technology that we have to be able to use it. Thank you so much, Eduardo.
So thank you very much, and I hope to see all of you again next month on our next webinar on the rights of the child to be heard in juvenile justice. Thank you, Renate, Jean, and Joseph.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.